Welcome to Judaism The Series, dear viewers. You have a mitzvah every single day. It is an additional one. Jonathan Pollard, the Jewish American hero, this is how he looked before he was imprisoned by the uncircumcised Gentiles of the United States of America. Jonathan Pollard was the Jewish hero in the US of A. He saved the lives of Jewish babies, children, women, and men from being massacred by the Arab Muslim two-legged mule, predator, homicide, Islamo-fascist murderers. After 30 years, this is how Jonathan Pollard looked, vaguely reminiscent of the Jonathan Pollard that was imprisoned by the pagans of the Democrat, and Republican parties. Dear viewers, Jonathan Pollard saved the lives of Jewish babies, infants, children, women, and men from being massacred and slaughtered by the two-legged mule Arab Muslim predator, homicide, Islamo-fascist terrorists by taking unauthorized data from the Pentagon, pinpointing the exact locations of all the terrorist bases in the Middle East. And for that, the uncircumcised Gentiles of both the Democrats, the Demorats, and the Republicans, both of them, kept him in there for 30 years. Even those who spied for the former Soviet Union, the lethal enemies of the United States of America, did not receive 30 years, only because Jonathan Pollard is Jewish. Indeed, James Woolsey, the former head of the CIA, openly declared the only reason Jonathan Pollard had been incarcerated for such an unfathomable amount of 30 years is because he's Jewish. Now, he's on parole. He's still out of the 5-year parole sentence. There's still a few years left. He's restricted in his movements. He has to respond constantly to the signals that are on his body, that his body detection mechanisms. He has to call in frequently, including the Sabbath, which violates the sacred Sabbath. But the Gentile uncircumcised parole board couldn't care less, their viewers. And yet these very parole board members, they go to church, and who do you think that they're praying to, their viewers? To Jesus the Jew. Jesus was ethnically, racially, and religiously brought up Orthodox Jewish. And yet these polluted, uncircumcised Gentiles still are trying to keep Jonathan Pollard here, who wants to move to our land of Israel. So, dear viewers, I'm going to give you the numbers of how to reach the President of the United States. Take out your writing paraphernalia now. Take out your writing materials now. You're to call daily from 10 a.m. up until 2 p.m. And you're to state to those who man the presidential comments hotline. Make it hot, but civil, professional. You're a registered voter, and you're asking that the President of the United States of America pardon Jewish American hero Jonathan Pollard. Here's the number, and write it down. You are to call daily from 10 a.m. up until 2 p.m. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. 202-456-1414. 206-456-1414. 202-456-1414. In addition, I'm going to give you a second number, the switchboard on the house on Capitol Hill. You're going to be reaching all the members of both houses, and you're going to tell them you're a registered voter, and you're asking that Jonathan Pollard, P-O-L-L-A-R-D, spell it correctly, P-O-L-L-A-R-D, is a Jewish American hero. He should be pardoned from parole, and so you'll be able to make aliyah, to go live in our religious historical, and national land of Israel. Last but not least, contact the President of Israel that he should nudge the President of the USA to pardon Jewish American hero Jonathan Pollard. Now, I'm going to give you the number for the switchboard on the house on Capitol Hill and write it down. 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121, to have the President vacate the parole so that Jonathan Pollard will have the freedom to make Aliyah to go and live in Israel. Dear viewers, we are now continuing with our series on Hebron, the first capital of the Jewish people, made so by King David. Indeed. In the riots of 1929, where the Arab Muslim two-legged mule predators, homicide genocidals, committed genocide on the Jews of Hebron. Now, don't get me wrong, dear viewers. They are following the Quran. The Quran states in Surah chapter 5, quote, "Don't make friends of Jews or Christians." This is the Quran, the Bible of Islam, chapter 5. And in the same chapter 5 of the Quran, the Bible of Islam, in verse 33, it stipulates genocide. Kill them, crucify them, chop their limbs off, and throw them out of the land. This is the Quran, this is the Bible of Islam. There is no such thing as radical Islam, because Islam in its fundamental basis, as it is written in the Quran, is genocidal, dear viewers. The 1929 massacres in Hebron, in which dozens of Jews were slaughtered all over the country, continued one of the cruelest chapters in the history of Jewish settlement in the Holy Land. The Jewish community of Hebron was dealt a mortal blow from which it did not recover until its restoration in 1981. Relations between Jews of Hebron and their Arab neighbors fluctuated throughout history. But just as the pogroms broke out, the city had experienced a sort of tranquility. The force behind the impending evil was Hajjamin al-Husseini Yumach Shemo. May his name be obliterated. He's the one who collaborated with Hitler, donating scores of tens of thousands of Arab Muslims and Muslims of Europe to Hitler's armies. And he was the uncle of Yasser Arafat, Yamach Shemom. May both of them, their names be eradicated. Now, he was appointed by the British authorities, also vicious and vile anti-Semites, two-legged, uncircumcised pagans who have been anti-Semitic from centuries to centuries to centuries. And it was the British who could have opened, who had the mandate on our land, had the infamous white paper. It was a whitewash, not allowing Jews into our land. Millions of Jews could have been saved from the Holocaust if it wasn't for the British imperialists. And so they appointed this El-Husseini as the Mufti of Jerusalem, and later discovered to be proactively pro-Nazi. He fabricated accusations against the Jews of the land, claiming they sought to usurp the Western Wall from the Muslims. The Western Wall is the Kotel HaMaravi. That's the last remnant of the courtyard of the Temple 1 and Temple 2 of the Jewish people on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This first one was destroyed by the Babylonians, the second one by the Romans. both of whom don't exist anymore. But we, the Jews, exist, and we shall exist for time eternity, regardless if it's the uncircumcised Gentiles or the circumcised Muslim Gentiles. We shall prevail. The British authorities were silent partners in his nefarious scheme, as they displayed hostility towards the Jewish community and tried to weaken it in every possible way. When the pogroms broke out throughout the country, the Jews of Hebron refused to believe that such incidences could take place in the city of the patriarchs of the Jewish people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and their wives, with the exception of Rachel, who is in Bethlehem, or in English translated from the Hebrew Bethlehem. The slaughter occurred and the Jews were left unprotected. They were unprotected, yet the British had police over there, and they looked the other way because they, as their counterpart, Gentile Muslims, for centuries, they were persecuting the Jews, the British. They had no inkling that when they go to church in the name of Jesus, that the person that they're praying to, Jesus, was a Jew ethnically, racially, and he was brought up Orthodox Jewish in our land, dear viewers. On Friday afternoon, August 23rd, inflammatory sermons were preached at the local mosques, and hordes of marauders began to advance towards the homes of the Jews in Hebron, attacking every Jew they encountered with stones and clubs, including the aged Rabbi Slonim, who was on his way to the British governor to summon assistance. The British police reacted in an ignominiously hostile manner, typical uncircumcised Gentiles, Europeans, and the Jews were offered no protection. The British commander rudely instructed the Jewish delegation to have people barricade themselves in their homes. Useless. Sealing the fate of many Jews whose houses became death traps as throngs of Arab Muslims, fully practicing Islamists, murdered, attacked them, and brutally tortured them to death. This is the Islamic way. Every single Muslim believes in the Quran, and the Quran is a book of genocide, of a Holocaust against the Jews primarily, and secondary against Christians and others. Surah chapter 5 in the Quran states, again I reiterate, quote, "Don't make friends of Jews and Christians." This is the Quran, Surah chapter 5. And in the same chapter 5, verse 33, it says, "Kill them, crucify them, chop their limbs off, and throw them out of the land." This is Islam. Look it up in the library. Look it up on the internet. The first fatality was Shmuel Rosenholtz, a yeshiva student who was killed that afternoon. Jews who sought protection were told by the British to lock themselves up inside their homes. Terror-stricken, they obeyed the order and awaited developments that Friday evening. The next day, Saturday, August the 24th, 1929, the great slaughter occurred. Thousands of Arab Muslims gathered armed with knives, axes, pitchforks, and anything else they could find, launching a systemic assault on Jewish homes. The Jews locked inside their houses were easy prey for the wild, bloodthirsty, Muslim practicing Arabs. The marauders did not spare anyone, murdering every Jew they could put their hands on. They broke into the home of the aged Grand Rabbi Yosef Kastel, slaughtered him cruelly, and set his house on fire. Rabbi Hanach Hassan, the chief Sephardic rabbi of Hebron, was murdered together with his entire family. Ben Zion Gershom, the pharmacist at Bet Hadassah Clinic, who had extended so much assistance to the infirm, Jews and Arabs alike, was tortured and killed along with his daughters. His wife's hands were cut off, and she died in anguish. This is the Muslim way. This is the Arab way. This is the Quran. The Quran is the Mein Kampf of the Muslim world, of the Arab world. Hundreds of rioters stormed the home of Eliezer Dan Slonim, manager of the Anglo Bank branch and a member of the Hebron Municipal Council. Many Jews fled to this house, expecting to find refuge, but their hopes were in vain. The marauders broke into the house, chopping, slashing, stabbing, torturing, and butchering every Jew they found. These were Arab Muslims. Slonim's family was wiped out, including his wife, a son, a daughter, and his father-in-law, Rabbi Orlansky, the chief rabbi of Zichron Yaakov. Only Slonim, their one-year-old son, miraculously remained alive, wounded and drenched with blood beneath the corpses of his martyred family. The slaughter continued from house to house. Jews cried out mercy from their Arab acquaintances. You who do businesses with Arabs, you who do business with Muslims, shame, shame, shame on you. Who generally responded with a cry, Itbach el Arab, Itbach, yeah, the Arabs should be slaughtered. Itbach el Yahud, Itbach el Yahud, Itbach el Yahud. In Arabic, slaughter the Jews. And brandished knives. While the marauders murdered in the thousands, there also, they raped, tortured, and murdered mercilessly, assaulting the elderly, infants, women, and children. The British policemen just stood and watched because they were good European Christians. The British were good European Christians. They let Jews to be tortured, raped, and murdered. A plague on the British Empire. There is no longer a British Empire. They lost all of it. One British mounted policeman who watched dispassionately as two Jewish brothers, Eliyahu Dov and Israeli Aryeh Kashel, were murdered The remaining Jews were ordered by the British uncircumcised Gentile Christian, European Christian genociders. Those who, and they didn't know that when they go to church, they're praying to a Jew, the Jew Jesus. They didn't know that Jesus was ethnically, racially, and Orthodox religiously brought up as an Orthodox Jew. They were ordered to assemble at police headquarters and banished. And days later, after the Jews were burying the dead, 3 days later the British decided to evict the Jews out of Hebron. That was with Christian, European, British charity. They watched as Jews were being tortured, mutilated, raped, and murdered. The British, and they did nothing. A brutal pogrom with the cooperation of the British government annihilated the oldest Jewish community in the land of Israel. Dear viewers, there is a very brief documentary which we will show now. Never again!
Each morning, officiating Kohanim would inquire, yet risen in the evening. It was only at daybreak, when the light of dawn, they would begin the sacred temple. Remaining continuously through the Mishnaic and Talmudic periods, the Arab conquest era, the modern age. Which is her home. Students flock from Europe, America, and all over the land. The sounds of Torah fill the air of Hebron. The riots of summer. Later a Nazi sympathy. Rabbi Yaakov Orlansky. Today, mothers and children
to be able to live here, to see my 4 married children living here and raising 15 grandchildren, and stage of life, living in Hebron, and to
Beit Hasson and Beit Kastel, adjoining Beit Hadassah, were renovated with Shani came here from the United States and raises her 6 children in the heart of Hebron.
I feel like I'm on a mission, and I've been here for 13 years, and I've seen a lot of progress. The place, feel very connected, and feel very special to be a part of this. I think the only thing my children suffer from is from feeling too heroic sometimes and too brave, because they feel totally secure here.